Hi everybody, I just thought I'd throw in my 2 cents on this whole discussion that's been going on about Google Plus. This sort of, the way it seems to be, Google seems to be integrating Google Plus and YouTube together. Obviously some people have taken umbrage with this. And Dorian Stratton did a video recently where he's actually defending this. He's a fan of Google Plus, he actually quite likes it. Obviously there was a bit of hoo-ha going on in the comment section there as well. I think he's rubbed the wrong way, but I wasn't personally offended by anything he said. I tend to fall into the anti-Google Plus camp a bit, but I wasn't offended. I mean, it's good to know people have got their opinions and they're throwing them out there. So basically, I think Dorian made some good points in his video. The Google Plus, I mean, I think people probably should give it a chance. But at the same time, I think the objection is that people are being forced to use it. Although I don't think we should overstate how much they're actually being forced to use it. All it really looks like is that they're going to set up a Google Plus account that links to your YouTube account. I suppose as far as I can tell, you can completely ignore that Google Plus account once it's been set up. You don't really have to do anything with it, and it doesn't have to be in your real name. YouTube kept pressuring me to sort of, they kept saying, you know, you can link your account to your real name, and I said, yeah, I really don't want to do that. If I'd wanted to use my real name on my account, that's what I'd have called my account. And that's not because I'm trying to hide my real name. I've mentioned my real name in several videos. I don't see the point of trying to hide that. I think in this day and age, if someone wants to get hold of your information, they're going to do it. There's not a lot you can do about that. So it wasn't for that. It's just that I don't really think my real name is particularly memorable. I prefer a name that's a little bit more memorable. But then they offered, that we could set up a different Google Plus account that you could connect that would have a name of your choosing. So I said, yeah, I'll do that, and I'll call it Captain Andy, because that's the name I go by these days. The name Andy from Sheldon hasn't been relevant to me for a long time, so it's about time I updated my name and actually had a name that was a bit more relevant. But yeah, I was thinking about this and the sort of history of social networking sites my history of social networking sites, because it's an interesting phenomenon, all this social media stuff. Now, the first one I ever joined was MySpace, and that was back in probably 2005. Yeah, in 2005. And that was just because I was in a band at the time, and for anyone who remembers MySpace, it was full of bands trying to get people to listen to them, and it wasn't barely a day went by you'd get ad requests off bands. And to be fair, whenever I added people, I did actually have a look at your taste in music first and made an educated guess as to whether we might be your sort of thing. I didn't use bots at any point. I didn't just send anything, send out ad requests like that. I was always, actually have a look at your profile to see if you might be the sort of person who's interested. And eventually I set up a couple of personal accounts, one for me, one for some other project I was trying to run. And yeah, and MySpace was good. It had its good qualities. Web developers hated it. They hated it, and the reason why is kind of obvious. It's taking business away from them. People who would normally have gone to them and said, "Can you design me a website?" are now just setting up a MySpace. That's what they were doing. And of course this eats into their business now, and they'd say, look, MySpace isn't a proper website, it doesn't look professional, you need to get a proper website. They're kind of right. They're a bit biased in favour of proper websites because it's their business, but they were sort of right. That was one of the negatives of MySpace. A lot of the profiles looked horrible. There was people with like purple backgrounds, and then they'd have pink text over the purple background, and you just couldn't read it. It was illegible. Plus, it would probably go across the screen depending on what browser you'd be using. Some of the customised profiles were absolutely hideous, and I think that's why certain people wouldn't use it as well. I think some people, it was seen as a very, perhaps a little, there were older people who used it, but it was seen as a bit teenage, a bit childish, maybe MySpace was. But then along came Facebook, and I quite like Facebook because it didn't have all this customisable stuff on there. And people were using it, possibly because of this, people were using it who wouldn't have used MySpace. There was a number of people who I could now communicate with via this site that would never have been particularly interested in MySpace. And Facebook very much just took over from this. I think MySpace rested on their laurels a bit. They just thought, yeah, we're the top social networking site or whatever, and then Facebook kind of snuck in the back door and took over. And they've done quite well because they've kept up to speed. But they've done this by taking certain risks, which is sort of what YouTube's doing now. They keep updating this, like they keep tinkering with it and changing it, and people get pissed off about this, and they keep complaining about the new Facebook, and they keep forming groups demanding that the old Facebook be brought back, and they keep getting irate. But after a couple of weeks, usually they're okay with it. They've settled down, they've calmed down, they've forgotten what the old Facebook even looked like, and yeah, they're basically fine with it. And so, yeah, I think that's sort of what's happening with YouTube now. There's a lot of changes going on, but people will complain about it, but they'll probably get used to. And they may find they even like Google Plus. I'm willing to be, I'm not really that into it at the moment, but I'm willing to be proven wrong about that. But sort of going back to my story about this, I also, some other networking sites I looked at were, back in the day, over the years. I think the next one was Bebo. Now apparently Bebo was more popular than MySpace at one point. I have to say, I find that very hard to believe, because really very little ever happened on there. For me, the only friend requests I ever got on there, or ad requests, were from like those obviously fake like porn bot profiles. It was like, yeah, deleting that. Nope, that's not me. That was it. And I'm not saying it. The statistics are wrong, but I really find them very much at variance with reality, or at least with my experience of the site. And I think after that, after Bebo, in fact, I'm trying to think now. I think I'll probably check out Bebo around the same time as Facebook, I thought. Twitter. I don't get Twitter. I've got a profile on there, but I really haven't felt very motivated to use it all that much. I've had a bit of a look at stuff. I've followed a couple of people who I think are kind of interesting, but I just don't feel motivated enough to get on there. It just seems to be this sea of people retweeting things and saying things and retweeting and tweeting at each other, and I should probably get over this and start using it. If anyone can sell the idea of it to me a bit, if you can tell me what sort of things it's useful for promoting and what sort of networking it's useful for, that'd be good. But Google Plus, I set up an account, like a personal account with them, probably a couple of years ago. I don't really remember why. I think it was just something that was suggested to me, but I found that a lot of the people I was communicating with on there were just people I already had on Facebook, and it just seemed silly that we were all going to we might as well just keep using Facebook. So I really haven't used Google Plus at all, really, but it seems that that's part of Google's plan now, is to try and get Google Plus moving a bit more by integrating it with YouTube, which could be a good idea. I'm a bit sceptical of it, but okay, it could be good. But yeah, I think the point Dorian made in this video as well is that really Google Plus isn't supposed to be the same as Facebook. It's not supposed to be a site for communicating with people you already know. It is for making new contacts, with people with certain interests. Like I know he's a photographer, I'm a musician, and things like that. You can make certain contacts with certain people who share these interests, get into certain circles. So it's more about meeting new people, or, in the online sense anyway. Which is an interesting idea, because that's sort of what MySpace was like originally when I was using it. It was about trying to find new people who were interested in what I was doing. So yeah, that's where I think Facebook was different. Facebook was all about sort of and still seems to be really about keeping in touch with people you know. It's just a good way of mass communicating with people inviting them to it. If you've got to put on a party or something, you can invite them to an event. So yeah, that's my thoughts on social networking. There are some other sites I could mention, but a lot of them were more music oriented. They were using a lot of the same features that social networks were using, but that's probably a subject for a different video. But I mean, YouTube itself is a social networking site in a sense, so I suppose it makes sense they might be integrating it with something like Google Plus. But one thing I wasn't really willing to do was just be forced to use my real name, and that's not my online stage name, if you like. That's a different one. So, but they offered the opportunity. They said you can choose a different name, we'll set up a separate account, and you can integrate that. and that's fine. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts. So yeah, I don't think we should write off Google Plus straight away. I think it's something we should see how things go. If we really don't like it, I suppose we don't have to use YouTube anymore. But I think I like YouTube, so I'm probably gonna work around it. Whatever happens, I'll probably just work around whatever changes come into play. Yeah, so I don't think, there was always talk about whether people were being childish or not. I don't think people are being childish by opposing Google Plus. I think they're more, they're being a bit set in their ways, maybe. They don't, if they're comfortable as they are, they don't want to have to sort of get up and move about again, or become reacquainted with the site. I think it's because some of these sites are constantly updating themselves, constantly re-engineering themselves. People feel like, oh god, I've got to do something again. I've got to suddenly get used to this new format. But if you think about it, that's where MySpace made their error. They did that occasionally, but I think they just became a bit complacent. They didn't change things enough, they didn't update things enough, and people just moved on to what was better, really. I think MySpace tried to relaunch a couple of years ago, as I remember, but I don't think that really worked out. So I think they've lost ground there, really. But yeah, so yeah, let me know what you think. But I'm not getting too wound up about it. I want to see how things go with this Google Plus thing. I think we might be surprised. It might actually be quite good. I've not really got my head around it as a networking site yet, but it's early days yet, so we'll see how we do. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.